My name is Adam Riley. I'm 34, and until last Friday, I was the lead systems architect at a growing tech consultancy in Manchester called Linksor Group. I don't usually care about titles. I build things. Complex, secure, high-performance infrastructures that keep billion-pound companies running while everyone else sleeps. I don't need applause. I don't need great job emails. I just need clean code, reliable uptime, and to be left alone. But what happened last Friday wasn't about a title. It was about what I was owed. The company had grown fast over the past 3 years, mostly because of the back end I designed. Secure integrations, predictive monitoring, full system audits. Clients loved it. Uptime was 99.99%. Our revenue doubled. HR even started using my dashboard for internal performance reviews. 6 months ago, I was pulled into a meeting with the CTO. He told me they were restructuring leadership and that I'd likely be moved into a director of technology role. He even asked me to create a handover framework for my current role, in case we need to backfill it quickly, he said. I worked late nights putting that together. Clean documentation, risk mitigation logs, escalation protocols. By the end of it, I had created a blueprint so foolproof, a junior engineer could have stepped in and run the place. And maybe that was the plan all along. Friday morning, the email invite came. Subject, quarterly all hands, plus special announcement. Location, 3rd floor conference room. Time, 10 a.m. The team buzzed. People whispered in the kitchen. Everyone knew what the special announcement was. It had to be my promotion. I didn't dress differently. Didn't tell anyone. Just showed up, coffee in hand, notes in my head. At exactly 10:06 a.m., the glass doors swung open and in walked Mike Delaney, the VP of Operations, and more importantly, the boss who'd always been vaguely dismissive of me. He was followed by someone unexpected, Ethan Delaney, his nephew. Ethan was fine, junior developer, 2 years in, nice enough. But let's be real. He couldn't code his way out of a wet paper bag without Stack Overflow. Still, he was standing too close to Mike, too confident. I felt something twist in my chest. Then Mike cleared his throat. "Thanks for joining, everyone," he said. As you know, we're entering a new growth phase, and with that comes new leadership. We're thrilled to announce a promotion in the engineering division. I glanced down at my coffee, waited for my name, and then heard, "Please join me in congratulating Ethan Delaney as our new director of technology." Applause. Hesitant, unsure, polite. I didn't move. My hands were still around the cup. It was suddenly too warm. Ethan smiled wide, stepped forward, and shook his uncle's hand. I looked around. My team avoided eye contact. 1 or 2 looked confused. One looked genuinely sorry. Mike added, "Ethan's shown tremendous initiative over the past year and brings a modern perspective to our systems strategy." I almost laughed. Ethan had asked me last week how to reset his Git credentials. I didn't clap. I didn't speak. I just walked out. Not dramatically. Not with fire. Just quiet. Focused. Back at my desk, I opened up the system access panel. Admin credentials still active. Network logs untouched. Codebase permissions fully mine. Mike had announced a change in leadership, but hadn't actually executed it. No revokes, no handovers, no safeguards. They had assumed I'd take it, swallow it, move on. But what they didn't know? I had built everything, and I knew exactly where to start dismantling it. Ethan moved into the corner office on Monday morning. He brought a standing desk, a leather chair, and 3 framed certificates, none of which were remotely related to systems architecture. By 10 a.m., he had already sent out a department-wide Slack message. Hey team, looking forward to collaborating with everyone. Let's schedule a quick sync today to discuss vision. Vision. The man didn't know how to write a Python function with error handling, but he had a vision. I didn't respond. Didn't attend the sync either. No one said anything. No one questioned it, because they knew. At 11:45, I got a direct message from Sarah, one of our best mid-level engineers. Hey, just wanted to say that was total BS. We all know you built everything here. I typed, thanks, then deleted it. Typed, appreciate it. Deleted that too. In the end, I sent nothing. Just stared at the blinking cursor until it faded. By noon, the cracks were already forming. Ethan tried to push a system update using a deployment script he barely understood. He bypassed staging because he thought it was optional. The internal billing tool glitched. The HR platform failed to sync. 2 departments couldn't access their dashboards. I watched quietly as Slack channels exploded. Ethan's face turned red in the glass-walled office. He started pacing, headset on, arms flailing. Then came the message. Adam, can you jump on a quick call? Ethan. I stared at it, let it sit. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Then I replied, sorry, tied up. Try rollback.sh from shared/scripts, might help. It wouldn't. I'd already seen the real problem in the logs. He'd overwritten 2 database environment variables with empty strings. The script couldn't fix that. At 2 p.m., Mike emailed the engineering team directly. Subject, let's support our new leadership. This is a period of transition. Let's remember to show patience, teamwork, and respect. It reeked of fear, like he already knew he'd made the wrong move, but was trying to save face before the fallout hit. I didn't reply, but others did. Sarah, noted. Jules, looking forward to getting clarity. Zane, happy to help where needed. All of them neutral. All of them waiting to see who would sync first. By end of day, I had finished quietly documenting everything Ethan had touched. Every configuration file, every timestamp, every access log. I wasn't sabotaging him. I didn't need to. I just watched, waited, and made sure the evidence was clean. Because unlike him, I didn't need anyone to see me working to know I was doing the job. Tuesday morning started with a Teams outage, not global, just ours. No one could log into the internal chat system between 9 a.m. and 10:20 a.m. People were rebooting routers, refreshing pages, restarting laptops. Ethan sent a mass email from his phone. We're experiencing a minor connectivity issue. Looking into it. Minor. The outage had severed department comms across 6 countries. At 10:45 a.m., Sarah came to my desk. Was this related to yesterday's rollback? She asked softly. I shook my head. Rollback didn't touch infrastructure. So? I didn't answer. She got it. Walked away. But not before saying, they're starting to notice. Around noon, I got a message from the external DevOps consultant we sometimes used, Ian. Hey Adam, did you guys push a DNS change last night? Saw something odd in the audit trail? I smiled. I hadn't pushed it, but I'd left the window open for someone else to try. Ethan had. He was working late, trying to fix his earlier mistake without asking for help. He found a DNS table labeled Legacy Backup Deploy and thought disabling it would clean up the logs. What he didn't know? That table auto-routed several internal domain names, including Teams, Jira, and internal wikis, all of which now pointed to nothing. By 1:30 p.m., the senior project manager, Jules, called an emergency sync. People joined using their personal Zoom links. It's chaos, she said. We can't see sprint progress. No chat, no dashboards. Ethan joined late. He looked pale, sweaty. Said a few vague things about external factors and propagation delays. Nobody asked questions. Nobody offered help. They just watched. After the call, Ethan sent me a private message. "Hey, I think I need your help figuring out the DNS thing. Any chance you can look?" "Already did," I replied. There was a pause. "And?" "You deleted a live root." "What? I thought it was deprecated." "It was labeled legacy, not inactive." Silence. Then, "Can you fix it?" "Already did. Took 20 minutes. Another pause. "Thanks, man. I'll make sure Mike hears about this." I stared at that message. That's what it came down to. He screwed up. I cleaned it up. And he'd get credit for surviving a disaster he caused. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a private folder labeled Failsafe. Inside, a script. It didn't delete anything, didn't break anything. It just logged everything. Every change Ethan made. Every time he tried to fix something and made it worse. Every time I quietly stepped in. The file would update in real time. Time-stamped, immutable, and accessible only to one person. Mike. By end of day, the system was stable again. But the silence in the office wasn't. People weren't talking to Ethan. They were talking about him. Slack messages like, "Did he really delete the route table? He doesn't even know how to check usage logs. Why is Adam not running this place?" I didn't feed it. Didn't deny it either. Just sat at my desk and waited. Because the truth was taking care of itself. Wednesday morning, 8:42 a.m. My badge didn't work. I scanned it again. Nothing. Then I smiled. They'd finally made a move. I walked to reception, where Susan from admin looked up, embarrassed. "Adam, Mike asked to suspend your access temporarily. Something about realigning tech ownership." "Did he give you that exact phrase?" She nodded sheepishly. "Don't worry," I said. "You did the right thing." She looked confused as I stepped aside, pulled out my phone, and opened the failsafe folder. At 9:15, I sent a single email. To Mike Delaney, CC, CTO, CFO, Head of HR Subject, Operational Integrity Review, Week Summary. Attached, a 10-page document. Timestamps, system access logs, screenshots, script outputs, side-by-side comparisons of Ethan's changes and my interventions. No commentary, no accusations. Just facts. Cold. Quiet. Undeniable. I didn't add a message in the body. Didn't need to. Let the data speak. At 10:07, I got a call. Private number. I answered without saying a word. "Adam," Mike said, tight voice. "What the hell is this?" "An operational review." "You're trying to undermine Ethan." "No," I said. "He's doing that all on his own." There was a pause. Then, "You blindsided me." "No, Mike," I replied. "You blindsided me when you handed my role to someone who didn't know what a reverse proxy is." I could hear his breathing. Heavy. Frustrated. "This kind of data gets messy if it reaches the board." "Then clean it," I said. "You've got access to the logs now." Click. He hung up. By noon, the company grapevine was on fire. People weren't whispering anymore. They were openly talking. "I heard Ethan's DNS screw-up cost us 2 clients. Mike tried to lock Adam out. Why? Apparently, Adam fixed every outage this week." At 2 p.m., a reply-all thread began circulating. Someone had accidentally, maybe intentionally, forwarded my report to 2 team leads. It spread. By 3:30, half the company had read it. Nobody asked me if it was real. They already knew. At 4 p.m., I received an Outlook meeting invite. Subject, Leadership Sync, Urgent. Organizer, CTO location, Executive Boardroom. I clicked accept, then stood, stretched, and grabbed my laptop. As I walked through the hallway, people moved aside, not out of fear, out of respect. No one said a word. But I saw it in their eyes. They weren't looking at the guy who fixed bugs. They were looking at the man who held the keys. The executive boardroom was designed to intimidate. Glass walls, long oak table, 8 black leather chairs perfectly spaced, a framed mission statement on the wall that no one had read in years. But I wasn't intimidated, because everything in that room, including the lights, the audio, and the remote conferencing system, ran on software I'd written. When I walked in, the CTO was already seated, flipping through a printed copy of the report I'd sent earlier. The CFO sat beside her, frowning at a spreadsheet. HR's director scrolled through her phone, tight-lipped. Mike was across the table, hands folded. Ethan wasn't there. That was telling. Adam, the CTO said, "Thanks for joining." I nodded, remained standing. "We've reviewed your report," she continued. "Can you walk us through what prompted you to compile it?" "I was locked out of the system this morning without justification," I said calmly. "So I provided a snapshot of the risks your new leadership created." Mike shifted in his chair. "This isn't about risk, it's about personal resentment." I looked directly at him. "Is that what the data suggests?" The room fell quiet. The CTO leaned forward. "Mike, did you authorize Adam's access suspension without consulting anyone?" "I acted to prevent interference," Mike replied, defensive. Ethan needed space to lead. "And in that space," I said, "he took down internal comms, corrupted the billing sync, and caused a 7-hour DNS misdirection, all of which I resolved while being cut off." The CFO closed his laptop. "Is this accurate?" "I've triple verified it," the CTO answered. "The logs match Adam's timeline." HR broke in. "And the personnel issue, promoting a direct family member without declaring conflict of interest?" Silence. Mike looked down. "That's not uncommon," he said. "But it is non-compliant," she replied sharply. The CTO turned to me again. "Why didn't you escalate sooner, Adam?" "I did. 6 months ago, I submitted a restructure recommendation. It was ignored." She looked surprised. "I never saw that." "I sent it to Mike." The board didn't erupt. They didn't need to. Because for people like them, silence is worse. It means the mind is moving, realizing, calculating damage. After a long pause, the CFO spoke. "Effective immediately. Ethan Delaney is suspended pending investigation." Mike opened his mouth, but the CTO raised a hand. "You'll remain until we finish this internal audit, but all operational control is revoked." Mike froze. That was the real hit. Not termination, not embarrassment, but irrelevance. The CTO looked at me again. "Adam, this company can't afford another misstep. What do you need to stay and help us recover?" I had already prepared the answer. A formal offer, interim CTO, 6-month review, full autonomy over engineering decisions. And one more thing. Everyone looked up. Transparency. The next time someone tries to bury my work, I won't be the one leaving quietly. The CTO nodded. Agreed. I sat down. Not because I needed the seat, but because, for the first time, it was mine on my terms. Thursday morning, my new badge worked on the first try. It buzzed green as I entered the executive wing. Not as an outsider, not as a backup plan, but as the interim CTO of Linksor Group. The title didn't excite me. It didn't flatter me. What mattered was control. I walked into my old workspace and found it exactly as I'd left it. The mug, the extra mouse, even the sticky note on my monitor that read, "Don't fix what's working." That post-it hit differently now. At 10 a.m., I held my first leadership sync. No PowerPoint, no icebreaker slides, no vision decks, just a table, a notepad, and real questions. What's broken that nobody's talking about? Jules raised her hand first. We haven't had a proper QA cycle since the restructuring. Sarah added, we've been cutting corners on server monitoring to meet fake deadlines. Zane from infrastructure, Ethan froze our AWS billing account last week trying to optimize costs. We were minutes from data loss. I nodded at each, took notes, and said only this. We fix it. One problem at a time, starting today. By noon, I had reinstated full sandbox testing, restored back-end monitoring visibility, rehired 2 laid-off QA contractors, no big announcement, no town hall, just change, the kind that's felt, not posted. Around 3:30 p.m., I got a message from HR. Mike had officially resigned, effective immediately. No farewell email, no LinkedIn post, just gone. Later that evening, I sat in the boardroom, alone. The lights dimmed automatically at 6 p.m. I didn't move. I stared at the glass walls, the whiteboard still covered in half-erased architecture diagrams, and asked myself a question I'd avoided for years. Did I ever really want this? Not the job, the fight, the quiet sacrifices, the dignity swallowed, the patience mistaken for weakness. I had spent years building unbreakable systems, but no one had asked whether I was breakable. Turns out, I wasn't, but I was tired. The next morning, I opened a folder on my desktop named Exit Plan. Inside, a clean modular blueprint of our system's documentation on every major decision made in the last 3 years. A proposal for succession, it was time. At 11:45 a.m., I walked into the CTO's office. She looked up. Is it done already? Almost, I said, then handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, my resignation. Adam, she started. I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done. I've kept the systems alive, rebuilt the trust, stabilized the teams. You don't need me to hold it together anymore. She stayed quiet, then nodded. You never did want the corner office, did you? I smiled. I wanted the work to matter. That's all. Friday morning, my final day. No farewell email, no cake, no fake applause, just a quiet confirmation from HR and a checklist to complete before my exit became official. I packed my desk in 5 minutes. There wasn't much. A small cactus that somehow survived 3 winters, a USB with old code from my freelance days, and that post-it note, don't fix what's working. I folded it carefully and slid it into my wallet. Sarah came by mid-morning. She leaned on the side of my desk, arms crossed. So, is it true? She asked. I nodded. Yeah. She didn't look surprised. I figured, she said. We all did. I raised an eyebrow. You all what? Knew you wouldn't stay, she replied. People like you don't chase titles. You chase balance. Purpose, I smiled. I chase quiet. At 11 a.m., Jules and Zane caught me by the elevators. They didn't say much, just handed me a small envelope. Inside, a hand-drawn diagram. The entire system I built, re-illustrated. But this time, the core wasn't labeled back-end hub or data ops. It just said, built by Adam. Runs like him, silent and strong. That one hit me. Harder than any betrayal. Harder than being passed over. Because that was real respect. I left the building at 11:47 a.m. Same way I came in 8 years ago. Back then, I was just a contract developer fixing a broken login form for a startup nobody knew. Now, I was the reason that startup was still alive, but I didn't need anyone to clap. Because legacy isn't built with noise. It's built in the silence that comes after you're gone. and the system still runs. I walked through the streets of Manchester, cold wind pressing against my coat. I had nowhere to be, and for the first time in years, that felt like power. By 2 p.m., I was seated in a small cafe with my laptop open. Inbox, 34 unread messages, 3 job offers, 1 speaking invite, 2 interview requests. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened a blank document. How to build a system that doesn't break people. That was the title, because the next thing I built wouldn't just be functional, it would be fair. I closed the laptop, watched people pass by on the wet pavement outside. Nobody knew who I was, no one cared, and I loved that. Because some victories aren't meant to be seen. Some revenge stories don't end with collapse. They end with quiet closure.